Hello everyone. So now we are discussing about metal ceramic restorations. This is the third topic under FPD. The references I've used are Rosenstiel and Schillenberg, so you can go back and read these books. And I kindly request you to pay more attention in the areas which are marked by a pink star. So these are the repeated questions which were asked in the previous NEET exams. Metal ceramic restoration. These are partial crown, full crown or fixed partial dentures made with a metal substrate to which porcelain is bonded for aesthetic enhancement via an intermediate metal oxide layer. The synonyms or the other names for a metal ceramic restoration are porcelain fused to metal restoration, porcelain bonded to metal restoration, porcelain to metal restoration, and ceramo-metal restoration. It consists of a ceramic layer on top of a metal coping. The metal coping is fabricated to fit to a prepared tooth. So a metal ceramic restoration has a quality of both metal restoration and a ceramic restoration. So it is strong and it fits accurately as a metal restoration. Also, it has all the aesthetic properties of a ceramic restoration. In the previous class, we have learned that metal ceramic restorations are of two types. One is the restoration which has a ceramic coverage on all the surfaces, and the other one is ceramic facing, where the ceramic restoration or the ceramic veneer is present only on the facial or buccal surface. In most textbooks, metal ceramic restoration, the term is used to refer ceramic facing restorations. So here in this lecture, I'll be focusing on ceramic facing restorations only. Indications of metal ceramic restoration are: first one is extensive tooth destruction as a result of caries, trauma or existing previous restorations. In these cases, a more conservative type of a restoration cannot be given. So we'll have to give a full coverage restoration, preferably a metal ceramic restoration. Second is the need for superior retention and strength. So we know that the metal ceramic restoration has a metal coping on top of which the ceramic layering is done. So the metal coping is strong enough to resist the occlusal forces, and it is having adequate fit with the underlying tooth structure. So the retention is also good. The third situation is in cases of endodontically treated tooth. In such cases where the crown is badly destroyed, we'll have to give a post-encore restoration. So a metal ceramic crown can be given along with the post-encore. In certain situations which require recontouring of the axial surfaces or where there is minor malinclinations, a metal ceramic restoration can be given, because we can modify the axial surfaces and give a more aesthetic dentition. Metal ceramic crown can also be given to correct the occlusal plane in certain situations. A metal ceramic restoration is contraindicated in cases where the patient is having active caries or untreated periodontal diseases, in young patients with large pulp chambers. Whenever a more conservative retainer is feasible, a metal ceramic restoration shouldn't be used unless and until there is a need for a long span FPD. Advantages of a metal ceramic restoration are: first one, it's more durable than all ceramic crowns. In a metal ceramic, since there is a metal coping which supports the overlying brittle ceramic material, the restoration is more durable than a all ceramic restoration. And it also has a superior marginal fit because the metal fits closely to the prepared tooth. It combines the strength of a cast metal with the aesthetics of an all ceramic crown. Then the natural appearance can be closely matched with a metal ceramic crown with the help of using external or internal stains and glazes. The retentive qualities are excellent because all walls are involved in the preparation. It is easy to ensure adequate resistance form during tooth preparation. It permits correction of the axial form of the tooth. Now, what are the disadvantages of a PFM crown? So the PFM crown closely resembles the all ceramic crowns in terms of aesthetics, but the quality is inferior to that of a all ceramic crown. It also requires significant tooth reduction to provide sufficient space for the restorative material. So it is not a conservative type of a restoration. And in certain cases, we'll have to place the gingival margin subgingivally, especially in the aesthetic zone with high lip line. So in such cases, it is a potential space for periodontal disease, and maintenance of oral hygiene is also very important in such cases. Because of the glass-like nature of the veneering material, a metal ceramic is subjected to brittle fracture. So if it is not fabricated properly, the porcelain tends to fracture easily. So these are the components of a metal ceramic restoration. It consists of a metal substructure or a metal coping. On top of the metal coping, the ceramic veneer is added. And to hold the ceramic veneer to the metal coping, an oxide layer is required. So first there will be a metal coping. On top of the metal coping, an oxide layer will be there. It's a very thin layer. And on top of the oxide layer, the ceramic layers will be formed. So the first layer of ceramic is the opaque porcelain. The next one is the dentine porcelain. Then we'll have the enamel porcelain, and finally the external glaze. The opaque porcelain helps to mask the color of the metal. That is, the metal usually will be darker in color. So when a porcelain is applied on top, it tends to have the darker shade coming out of the porcelain. So in order to mask that darker color, we use an opaque porcelain. It also helps in the formation of a primary bond between the metal and the ceramic. So the opaque porcelain, it is made up of so many oxides, including the tin, titanium, zirconium and cerium oxides, which gives the opaque appearance. This is because these oxides have higher refractive index, so they scatter the light. It's generally supplied in light yellow color. Once the opaque porcelain is sintered, then we'll go ahead with the body porcelain. It is also called as dentine porcelain. It makes up the bulk of the restoration. So the shade, the color of the restoration will be provided by the dentine porcelain. This corresponds to the dentine of a natural tooth. After applying the dentine porcelain, the restoration or the coping with the ceramic is again fired, and then we'll apply the enamel porcelain. So the enamel porcelain is also called as incisal porcelain. It helps to give a translucent appearance for the restoration. So we know that the enamel or the incisal edge of the tooth is translucent. So the enamel porcelain is the one that gives the same translucency for the restoration. So it is usually supplied in violet to grayish color range. Stains and glazes, these are used to make the restoration more lifelike. So the existing stains on a natural dentition can be replicated on the restoration, which gives a more aesthetic appearance for the restoration. Stains are basically metallic oxides, that is high concentration of metallic oxides, which is mixed with low fusion glasses. These oxides will have different shades. For example, iron or nickel oxide will be brown in color. Copper oxide will be green in color. Titanium oxide will be yellowish brown. Manganese oxide will be lavender in color. And cobalt oxide will be blue in color. So depending on the presence of pigments on the adjacent tooth, we can select whichever pigment we want to add on the restoration. Glazes are generally colorless and low fusing porcelains. They will be more fluid at high temperature compared to other ceramics, and they fill small surface porosities and irregularities and give a even and glassy appearance to the restoration. Now let's see what are the alloys used for metal ceramic restoration. So the alloys for metal ceramic restoration are basically classified into high noble, noble and predominantly base metal alloys. High noble alloys are gold, platinum, palladium, gold, palladium, silver and gold, palladium alloys. Noble alloys are palladium, silver and high palladium alloys. Base metal alloys are nickel chromium, beryllium and cobalt chromium alloys. There are certain requirements for a metal to be used as a metal coping. So first and foremost is that the metal should have a higher melting temperature compared to the porcelain firing temperature. So we all know the ceramic particles will be fired at higher temperature to sinter and form the restoration. So if the melting temperature is lower than the firing temperature, then the metal will melt off during the porcelain firing and we won't get the restoration. The second point is it should be able to form a oxide layer. This oxide layer helps in chemical bond between porcelain and metal. In noble metal alloys, there are traces of base metal which provides this oxide layer. In base metal alloys, chromium usually helps in formation of the oxide layer. So the oxide layer is formed when the metal coping is heated. There are certain requirements for a metal to be used as a metal coping. So first and foremost is that the metal should have a higher melting temperature. And last point is it should have a high elastic modulus. This is because we need the restoration to resist all the forces which are acted on it. Now let's see about the porcelain metal bonding. To bond a ceramic veneer to cast alloy, the ceramic must have a fusion temperature well above its sintering temperature. Sintering temperature is the temperature at which the solid or the particles are made into a solid mass. Next is it should have a coefficient of thermal contraction that is closely matched to that of the alloy. If the coefficient of thermal contraction is not matching, the metal coping might contract at one rate and the overlying ceramic veneer will contract at another rate. This can cause fracture of the brittle porcelain veneer. Now let's see different bonding mechanisms of porcelain and metal. The first one is mechanical entrapment or mechanical bonding. So how is it formed? Once the coping is fabricated, it is subjected to sandblasting. The sandblasting creates certain irregularities or micro abrasions on the surface of the metal coping. Then when the ceramic is applied, the ceramic particles gets into these abrasions and gets interlocked inside. So this is how a mechanical bond is created. Next is compressive forces. So here what happens is the porcelain or the ceramic is kept under compressive stress. This is because of the difference between the coefficient of thermal expansion between metal and ceramic. So what happens is when the restoration is cooled after firing, the porcelain will be drawn towards the metal coping and it is kept under a compressive stress. Third type of bonding is chemical bonding. So here the oxide layer which is formed on the metal coping binds to the oxide layer in the opaque ceramic and a chemical bond is formed and this causes bonding of the ceramic to the metal. Let's see how a metal ceramic restoration is fabricated. So there are different steps. It starts with construction of a metal coping or framework, followed by the preparation of the metal, then degassing and oxidizing of the metal, application of the ceramic, that is the opaquer, followed by the dentine and enamel porcelain, condensation, sintering. Metal coping design. So the metal coping must be convex in configuration without any undercuts. It also must allow the porcelain to remain under compression. Porcelain is strongest under compression and weakest under tension. So the situations that induce tensile stresses in the ceramic, these can cause bond failure and which ultimately leads to failure of the restoration. So always there should be compressive stress on the porcelain. The outer junction of the porcelain to metal must be in right angle. Metal coping design. So the metal coping must be convex in configuration without any undercuts. It also must allow and all the occlusal contacts must be on the metal. There should not be any contact on the porcelain metal junction. The contacts can be on porcelain if there is no other option. Various techniques in fabrication of a metal coping are electrodeposition of gold or other metal on a duplicate die, burnishing and heat treating metal foils on a die, CAD/CAM processing of metal ingot, casting of pure metal, that is commercially pure titanium or alloy using lost wax technique. The most commonly used technique is lost wax technique. Here, once the tooth preparation is completed, we make an impression, and from the impression we make a die. On the die we prepare the wax pattern. The wax pattern prepared will be invested and casted to form the metal coping. So here during casting, after investing, we will be doing a step called burnout, where the wax particles or the wax pattern is completely evaporated and the mold space is created. Into the mold space the casting is done. So that is why we call it as lost wax technique. So before the fabrication of wax pattern, certain modification has to be done on the die. These are application of die hardener, application of die spacers and die lubricators. Die hardeners are cyanoacrylate or acrylic resin lacquers. These basically improves the hardness of the die so that it does not get abraded by carving of the wax pattern. Die spacers are enamels and lacquers. So in the picture you can see that red color paint which is painted on the die. So it will not be applied on the finish line. So the die spacer basically provides the space for the cementing, that is the luting cement. The last one is die lubricators. Die lubricator basically helps in easy removal of the wax pattern once it is completed. So once the wax pattern is fabricated, we will have to remove it from the die and invest it into the crucible former. So during that time there should not be any distortion. So die lubricator helps in easy removal of the wax pattern. There are various techniques for wax pattern fabrication. These are cutback method, plastic shell method and dipping method. So the instruments which we use commonly for wax pattern fabrication are PKT instruments and electrical wax pattern former. PKT instrument is also called as PK Thomas instruments. Once the wax pattern is fabricated, we will do a sprue attachment and it will be invested in the crucible former. So for investing the metal ceramic restoration or the wax pattern for metal ceramic restoration, we use phosphate bonded investment. After investment, burnout will be done, and once the wax is eliminated, we get a mold space into which the molten alloy will be passed. Once the molten alloy is added into the mold space, it takes up the shape of the mold and the restoration will be fabricated. Once the casting is completed, it is allowed to cool down. After cooling, we'll be taking out and doing the divestment, that is removal of the investment material, and do the cleaning and trimming of the metal coping. After that, we'll do sandblasting. Sandblasting is done to produce micro abrasions on the metal surface. So it is done with the help of high purity alumina. After sandblasting, next step is degassing and oxidizing. So we already studied that oxide layer is important for the formation of a good bond between metal and ceramic. So for this, we'll heat the metal coping in the porcelain furnace so that oxide layer is formed on the metal coping. Metals like iron, indium and tin are responsible for the formation of this oxide layer. Now the metal coping is ready for application of ceramic. So the first layer of ceramic which we apply will be the opaque porcelain. This is to mask the color of the underlying metal. So once the porcelain is applied, it is condensed and then it is sintered to its sintering temperature. Condensation is a process of packing the powdered ceramic particles together and removing excess water. So usually the ceramic particles are supplied as powder, which has to be mixed with water or the liquid provided by the manufacturer so that a slurry is formed. This ceramic slurry is applied onto the metal coping. So different techniques of condensation are vibration, ultrasonic vibration, spatulation and brush technique. In vibration, the metal coping is tapped so that all the ceramic particles are held together. In ultrasonic vibration, an ultrasonic unit is used which again do the tapping process. Then in spatulation, a small spatula is used to apply and smoothen the wet porcelain. In brush technique, after the application of the slurry, some amount of dry powder is applied on the opposite side. So the dry powder will draw all the water, excess water from the slurry, and thereby holding the wet particles together. The last step in the fabrication of metal ceramic restoration is sintering of the porcelain. So the sintering basically means firing the porcelain. This is done to hold the ceramic particles together to form a prosthesis. So before sintering, the furnace has to be preheated at 650 degrees Celsius for 5 minutes. After preheating, the coping is placed inside the ceramic furnace and then it is fired to its firing temperature. So the firing itself is a cycle. So we'll have to do the firing cycle after each layer of ceramic applied. The firing temperature is lowered by 10 degrees with each layer of ceramic, that is each correction firing, so that the initial buildup does not get affected. Several cycles of porcelain application and firing may be necessary to complete the restoration. So first we'll do the application and firing of the opaque layer, then the dentinal layer, then the enamel layer, and followed by glaze. So each layer can be done in multiple stages. So these are the amount of tooth preparation required to receive a metal ceramic crown. So the facial reduction will be 1.5 to 2 mm. Lingual reduction will be 1 mm. Occlusal reduction on the centric cusp will be 1.5 to 2 mm. Centric cusp is the functional cusp. Non-centric cusp or the non-functional cusp will have a reduction of 1 to 1.5 mm. The finish line of choice for a metal ceramic restoration is shoulder. Shoulder with a bevel is preferred more than a normal shoulder finish line. So this is given on the facial aspect. On the lingual aspect, there is no ceramic veneer, so we give chamfer. So this is for metal ceramic restoration with a ceramic facing or a ceramic veneer on the facial aspect. So here the reduction on the facial aspect will be more than the reduction on the lingual aspect. That's all about metal ceramic restoration. So to conclude, metal ceramic restoration is stronger than an all ceramic restoration. But if it is not done properly or if the framework is not fabricated properly, then that can lead to fracture of the veneering porcelain. So during fabrication, all the efforts has to be taken to reduce stress on the porcelain. And when we look at the aesthetic aspect, the shade matching is not as good as that of a all ceramic restoration. So that's why when we compare aesthetics, metal ceramic is inferior to all ceramic crowns. So kindly read up on this, and if any doubts, you can get back to us. Thank you.